A lot's been happening when it comes to processors. A lot of folks have found ways to overclock non-overclocking processors from Intel, that's anything with a non-K SKU, on the new Skylake platform, through the help of motherboard manufacturers making special B-clock or BLCK overclocking profiles and BIOS that folks were able to install on their motherboards and get much better performance out of their non-overclocking processors. But unfortunately, in the very same time frame that all of this really started to kick off, Intel has announced that it is upgrading the microcode for the processors to close that loophole and no longer allow people to overclock their non-overclocking processors. So given all of that that's just happened with Intel and the amount of messages I get from folks asking me what kind of processor they really need in a gaming system, I thought today we would go ahead and answer that fabled old question of, do you need a high-end overclocking processor to build a gaming machine? If you're anything like me, then you're really into self-learning. I am just a knowledge sponge. I don't like to watch TV. I like to learn stuff when I have downtime. And if that's the kind of person that you are, then go ahead and check out today's sponsor, lynda.com/Jay. That's, my link to let them know that I sent you. But lynda.com is an amazing resource with thousands of online tutorials and even thousands more written tutorials about all sorts of subject matter. It doesn't matter, graphics design, web design, programming, 3D printing, just all sorts of stuff up there. And the best thing about lynda.com is you get to learn about what you want to learn about, when you want to learn about it, at the pace you want to learn it. So you can do it in downtime, you can do it on your break at school or at lunch, and just create a knowledge machine inside your head. If you head over to lynda.com/Jay right now, you can try it all out for free and give you full access to their thousands of online tutorials. So at the end of this video, head on over there, start a free trial, and remember, lynda.com/Jay, it's how they know that I sent you. That's kind of important. Okay, so we're gonna do two things with this video. One, we're gonna do some talking head and talking hand portion of this video where I kind of give you some high level advice when it comes to processor selection for gaming systems. And then we're gonna try and do a little real world test here. Now, I gotta start by saying that there are a lot of factors. There is no cut and dry yes or no, you don't need a strong overclocking or high-end processor to enjoy games. There are so many variables out there that this video is going to serve as just sort of a guideline to try and help you arm yourself with the information you need to make that decision without relying on someone like me to tell you what to buy, because that doesn't really teach you anything. Remember, teach a man to fish. Wait, I forgot. Oh yeah, give a man a fish he eats for a day, or in my case, one snack. Teach a man to fish, then there's always more fish in the sea, something like that. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for life. That's it. That's what I was looking for. So the very first thing you have to ask yourself when it comes to building a gaming computer is, what types of games do you like to play most? Now, if you're like most gamers, you like them all. You like MMORPGs, maybe. You like FPS, you like RPGs, you like simulators. It really is going to depend on the type of gaming that you want to do. Now, all games are created differently. Games are not created equal. In fact, multiple games from the same developers won't even necessarily have the same amount of processor load. They all use different types of engines, and it's really going to depend on what type of game that it is. For instance, if you're doing an FPS or a first-person shooter, the only thing the CPU really has to do is load the map once, and then all it has to do is kind of calculate the information being sent over the internet to where the enemy is, when did he shoot, this object is here, this object blew up. There's not a whole lot of information there because it's fairly pre-rendered when the map is loading. That's why you have a loading screen when you go into the game. But the fact that it only has to load that one map, which is only that one section, so in Battlefield, you try and fly out of bounds, it stops you, it kills you. Or if you just keep going because of a bug, you eventually hit the end of the world and you kind of fall through a black hole and everything glitches out. So you really don't have a lot of information that the CPU is tasked with dealing with. But if you move into a very large sandbox type game, let's say something like Skyrim or Witcher 3, where it's just kind of endless, or at least it seems like it's endless, and the computer is constantly having to load different segments of maps as you move around, there's a lot more load happening on the processor. It reminds me back of the old days, and I know a lot of you are still playing it, Flight Simulator 10 or FSX was very CPU intensive. In fact, you could buy the best graphics card on the market and you would see no improvement whatsoever to the overall gameplay or simulator play inside of FSX because the CPU was tasked with doing all of it. So the point here is it really depends on the game and the way it was designed to run by the developers. Now, typically games that are console ports are not going to be very CPU intensive because unfortunately they are designed to run on the lesser spec box that you would find in your living room, like a PS4 or Xbox One, or even lesser like an Xbox 360, and then it's kind of gimped on PC. Now, game developers have really taken a lot of heat from the PC Master Race crowd or the enthusiasts of PC, saying that they want to utilize the amount of horsepower that they have to get the eye candy. After all, that's one of the best things about gaming on PC is the fact that you have so much more eye candy and so much more performance. So if you play a lot of games that turn out to be console ports, then you can get away with a much lesser non-overclocking PC. But if you're going to start dealing with things like modded Skyrim or modded Minecraft, Minecraft runs on Java and it's very intensive on the CPU when you start running things like shader mods and texture mods. So even when I was playing Minecraft and I was trying out all the different shader mods and texture mods, even though I have 3 Titan X's, only one of them work with Minecraft though, there's no SLI support, it was very CPU intensive because the CPU is having to do all of the rendering of the world and all of those individual blocks. It really becomes CPU intensive. Games like World of Warcraft, having very high-end graphics cards are going to help with things like light bloom and different render distances and things like that when it comes to the eye candy. But the overall impact of the world is happening on the processor. Now in reality, you don't need a high-end hyper-threading overclocking processor, speaking of Intel, at least in this instance here. You don't really need that to get a good gaming experience. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to go ahead and play some Grand Theft Auto 5. And we're going to do a first test here with my 5960X fully overclocked right now, which is at 4.5 gigahertz. And we are going to see how it plays with all 16 threads. And then we're going to gimp it down to 4 cores with no hyperthreading. So we're going to try to simulate something closer to an i5. It's not going to be apples to apples because it still has that massive cache on there. But we're going to see going from 16 threads to 4 by cutting the, technically the processing power in by 75%, and we're going to see how well it performs. Technically, we're cutting it more than that because we're going to get rid of those extra threads as well as the overclock. So let's see how it does.
Transition.
All right, so I know it's hard to see, but here is all 16 logical processors going right now on the 5960X. Okay, so I have all settings on max. I'm running a 3440 by 1440p screen right here, all sync technology off. Now I chose story mode because it's much more consistent as far as I'm concerned when it comes to, online mode. Depends on how many people are in the maps. There's a lot of variables. So anyway, I am using story mode right here. This guy gonna hit me? Nope. As you can see, we're running about 95 FPS right now. That is with all 3 graphics cards going at the moment. This guy is flipping me off. How rude. Yeah, that's what I thought. I better go. Get out of here. Oh, crap. Here's what we'll do. We'll benchmark right now. We'll let the benchmark run. We'll see what our average FPS is. I guess I don't know my own strength. Ooh.
Oh crap. They're on to me. And that's okay. This is just a normal day on the boardwalk. This is how we clear the path. Meant to do that. Meant to do that. Oh god, pull. Oh. I am dangerous. Oh shit! Ow. Get in the car, get in the car! Ah, that didn't work out so well.
Alright, so our average FPS on that was 106. So let's go ahead and take off those threads and see how it does. Our CPU usage, as you can see here, was fluctuating in the 30s down to the 20s. That went all the way down to, what, 10 at one point. Max CPU usage percentage was only 41% of the CPU being used. And that's one of the things that made me decide to do this video today, and I'll explain why at the end.
Windows updates.
All right, I'm in the BIOS here. I have put the CPU ratio back to auto. So uncore ratio. We now want to turn off the additional cores, and I'm pretty sure you can do that with this motherboard. Things I should have probably checked before I started, huh? Oh yes, here it is. So it's called Active Cores Control. So we've got cores 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So what we're going to do now is we are going to leave on 0, 1, 2, and 3, and we'll turn off 4, and 5, and 6, and 7. And hyperthreading is disabled. So now we've got basically an i5 with a lot of cache. And I don't mean money. Okay, so it's probably hard to see, but I promise you it has 4 cores now running, no hyperthreading, 20 megabytes of cache. Obviously, that's quite a bit more than a standard i5. What, 6600 has what, 6 megs of cache? Anyway, yeah, so again, it's not apples to apples, but we're trying to see if how much difference there is here in performance. Well, the first thing I noticed is that loading time didn't really seem to change. Let's make sure all my graphics settings stayed how I had them. Graphics, yep, everything's still pretty much maxed out. VSync off, good. And let's go back to our story mode. It's always fun to me. I don't know why, it's just fun to walk up to someone randomly and just smack them upside the head. It's hilarious. Where is my bike? I gotta look like Marshawn Lynch. All right, so I'm gonna get in a car this time. Oh, this guy's about to pull me out of the car. Oh, crap. This is bad news. All right, here we go.
Excuse me, coming through. Pardon me. Oh, crap. Hot dog stand! Get out the way. Ow. I know this just seems so violent. This is so unnecessary. And I'm kind of trying to repeat what I did the first time. Although I'm not in the motorcycle. Wow. Guys, run sideways. Don't run down the sidewalk. Run sideways. There's someone stuck to my hood. Pardon me. Pardon me. Pardon me. Oh, crap. Dang it. Let me out. There we go. If you shoot the tail rotors of the helicopters, you can make them crash. Oh, crap. Stop them shooting me! Whoa. Oh, yeah.
What just happened? Well, it happened kind of the same way again. The cop crashed into me and killed me. All right, average FPS on that one was 82. So we dropped about 24 FPS going from all those threads and overclocked to all the way down to 3 gigahertz and theoretically an i5. So let's talk about that. Now, what exactly should you take from this video? Well, one, there's lots of different ways this test could have been done. And there are ways that it could be manipulated to kind of prove both methods. It could prove that CPU makes very little difference to gaming. And it can be proved, like I just showed right here, where depending on your configuration and the game, it can definitely impact CPU usage. In fact, the CPU usage, when we went down to the 4 threads and 3.0 gigahertz at no overclocking whatsoever, we saw that the CPU usage jumped from the 40% range up to the 90% range and maxing out at 99 on the chart. So there are times when the FPS or the CPU was being completely maxed out. But what I want to point out is I didn't notice any jittering or stuttering when that was happening. So I don't know exactly what was making it max out, but it did not affect the overall performance of the game at all. Now, a lot of folks get confused when they look at their CPU usage when they're gaming and they think, my CPU is only doing 30% or only 40%. What's wrong? I get a lot of emails from folks wanting to know why their CPUs are not going to 100% when they're gaming. Well, ultimately, that's kind of a bad thing. That would mean that your CPU is falling behind the tasks that it's being, tasked with when it comes to generating and computing the game for you. And that means that you're going to start seeing bottlenecks and other sorts of performance failures in the future. As games progress, your CPU is going to start falling more and more behind, meaning you're going to have to turn down eye candy and settings on your game just to make it playable. When someone message me and when people message me and say their CPU only shows 40 or 50% usage, that's actually a good thing. And that means that you have a lot of headroom and room to grow in the future as games become more demanding. Now, the reason why I say you should always get the fastest processor you can afford that is reasonable at least. I think even a non-overclocking i7 would be worth it in my opinion over an i5, is that as CPU technology progresses and they get faster and faster, the demand on them is going to get greater and greater as games progress as well. Gaming manufacturers and developers, I said manufacturer, really they're building games. As they're making and programming these games, they are going to try and utilize the hardware that's available at that time. So if you get something that's barely cutting it now, 3, 4, 5 years in the future, you're definitely not going to be cutting it, or at least you're going to find yourself really diminishing the amount of eye candy and gameplay experience that you're getting because your hardware is falling behind. It's just kind of a quick test to get you thinking. I want to get you guys thinking. I don't want to just hand you all the answers. I want to get you thinking. But get the best processor that you can afford, but depending on the games that you're playing, you definitely are going to want to get a good graphics card as well. Those two have to work together to give you a good gaming experience. If you get a very high-end CPU and a very low-end GPU, you're not going to get a great gaming experience. Likewise, if you get yourself, an i3 or a Pentium Edition processor, and you get yourself something like a Titan X or a dual graphics card, and then you put it on something like GTA 5 or Skyrim with mods, again, you have that badass graphics card, but your processor is going to become the point of which you are having diminishing returns with your hardware. So you've got to find a balance there. Anyway guys, hope you've enjoyed today's video. Let me know what you guys think. If you want me to do this test again with other titles, let me know. Maybe we will revisit it with other graphics cards and things. But for now, it is time to get out of here. Thanks for watching my first video in the new office. It's very roomy and not nearly as hot as the other one was, and I'm very thankful for that. Time to get out of here, guys. As always, we'll see you in the next video.